My name is Joe Prony, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about passive aggression. But I'm going to give you a lot of information to look at and decide whether you agree with it or not. But I want to give you both sides of being passive aggressive. Now, when you look this up on Google or wherever you want to look, you're going to find that passive aggression is always considered to be negative. It's actually considered to be a dysfunctional behavior. So let's take a look at the definition of passive aggressive. It means an indirect resistance to the demands of others and or an avoidance of direct confrontation. Now, passive aggression, it is correlated to covert narcissism. And we've all heard these terms from people, so let's go over a few of them. Someone says, oh, it must be nice. Obviously, they're using the word nice, but there is anger, aggression, or jealousy there. We've heard, oh, well, I guess you don't need my help then, something like that. Or if you ask somebody how they're doing and they go, oh, I'm fine. Well, you know they're not fine. Again, passive aggressive behavior. Or one of my favorites, I'm not angry. You hear this from your parents sometimes, right? I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed, right? Very passive aggressive. So yes, it can be correlated to covert narcissism, and in some sense you could say it's dysfunctional behavior, obviously. But that's just one part of it. Here's a question. Is passive aggression always negative? Or is it considered to be just because we live in a very confrontational, individualistic society? So let's take a look at this. Passive aggression, where does it come from? It comes from a lot of things, but here's one. It's a trauma symptom. Let's say that you are very young and therefore you're completely dependent upon your caregivers. However, that environment might be very dysfunctional. It might be very chaotic. It might be in a situation where you're in danger. It might be physically abusive, emotionally abusive, psychologically abusive, sexually abusive. It might be in a situation where you're not allowed to have your own feelings, emotions, perceptions, thoughts, anything, your own beliefs on anything. It might be a situation where your boundaries are broken all the time. Maybe you're living with somebody that has alcoholism or a drug problem. And in this sense, if you're young and you have to depend on your caregiver, because obviously you're completely dependent, but what do you do? So it's like you're a prisoner of war. You're a captive audience. You're stuck in a situation. You can't be aggressive. What are you going to do? Leave and get a job at 6 years old? That's not going to happen. How can you be aggressive? Well, you can't. And this is why passive aggressiveness starts to become a thing. So in your mind, you can start trying to figure things out or a way out without letting your captors or your caregivers know about what you want to do. Let's say, for example, you come from a very negative background and you're thinking, well, I want to save some money on the side here. I'd like to go to college in some way and be able to get out. And are you going to tell your caregivers, hey, I got some money stashed, so as soon as I turn 18, I can get out? You're not going to do that, because if you are in an environment that's very abusive, guess what? They'll either A, take your money, or they'll throw you out of the house right then, so it'll stop you from, moving on in life. If you brag about how well you're doing in school, they could think, wow, you actually think you're going to be a somebody? I mean, I've got many clients like this. I just talked to another one a couple of weeks ago, and her biggest, let's say, impediment to her doing well in life, because she's smart, she's ambitious, she's all these things. Unfortunately, she's very young and doesn't have a lot of money. And so she moved out and she has roommates and she's trying to make it, and she's working and going to college full time. But of course she has this resistance. It's always her mother calling her on a daily basis. I need money, I need money, I need money. So she's going to feel guilty if she doesn't give her mother money. But if she does give her mother money, what will happen is that the chance of her making it in life go down, because she's even considering going back to live with her mother to help her mother. If this happens, by percentage, the chance of her going through 4 years worth of college and getting a good job is probably close to zero. So again, passive aggressiveness, it's not always a bad thing. It's for survival. You know who really wants to push this thought that passive aggressiveness is a dysfunctional behavior that needs to be stamped out because you are somehow a deficient person? The people who want to sell you that are people that are in power, the people who have a lot of money and influence. They want you to be able to show your cards of what you're going to do. Why? So they can crush you. So they can go out of their way to stop you from doing well. So don't buy into that, because there's a lot of reasons that passive aggression is the absolute best way to move forward in your life. And in the end, because you only have one life, and if you want to move forward and be successful, if that's the only way you can do it, well, then you must do that. Continuing, if we understand that passive aggressiveness can come from an invalidating environment when you're young, and we should agree on that because there's tons of empirical evidence to back that up, let's move on. That battle's already been won. Let's move to the next one. Can we also agree that when you go to work, many times it's the same environment that you could have in a dysfunctional home? Maybe you're at a job and you need that job, yet your boss doesn't treat you well. Maybe you're not getting treated the way you want, but you need that job in terms of the money that you're making because you can't get another job. Or maybe you are getting paid enough that if you quit, that you're certainly going to be in a problem, but maybe there's no other job you can jump to that's going to make as much money as you're making, so you're temporarily stuck. So again, prisoner of war situation again. What do? Do you want to be directly confrontational with your boss and tell them how much of a jerk you think this person is? Do you want to do that? Or if you have to do something for your boss and you disagree with this person, do you want to tell them that you think your way is better? I would think that that wouldn't be a smart thing to do. There's this thought in this world right now, mostly pushed, I think, by social media, is that you should be an individual and don't care what other people think. You don't need to think about other people. Okay, test that to see if it's true. Anybody that's lived a decent amount of years in this world will tell you that it's very important to be liked by other people. It's not the end all and the be all, but it's very important. And as you go through the world and you try to get a job here or there, some of the ways you're going to get a job is not going to be because you have a certain certification or you graduated from a certain college. It's not going to be because of that. It's going to be because of your reputation to get along with people, or that other people like you. And this is what happens all the time. So it is important to be liked by people and not to be overly aggressive with everybody you think is different than you. And therefore, again, being aggressive, in a sense, is a type of narcissism, to think that your way is the only way and you need to put out your opinion all the time. It's okay to manage your feelings. And it's okay to manage how other people treat you in terms of how they affect your feelings as well. Not everything has to be a direct confrontation. Moving on. So we can understand that work can be a traumatic situation, just like a childhood can be. How about business in general? Let's take a look at that. Next time you go and get your hair cut, do you actually think that a hairdresser loves all of their clients? Or there's a transactional process that's going on here where this person's delivering a service and they're getting money? Do you think that they love every person that comes in? Do you think that every person is respectful to a hairdresser, for example? Probably not. But they're not going to say, because I disagree with you when you're talking, that I need to be aggressive to you and tell you my opinion and tell you that how I think what you're saying is stupid and irrelevant. You don't act like that with clients. You don't do that. I've been in the personal training business for about 35 years. There are plenty of people I disagree with, but I don't find it necessary to try to win arguments with them about their belief system. It doesn't make sense. Can you call that passive aggression? Well, I'm trying to make a living. I am extracting money. That's aggressive. Is it passive? Yeah, in a sense. I give them an open, free space to be able to express their feelings and emotions as they wish. I don't need to fight them on everything like that. It makes no sense to do that. Continuing, there's plenty of examples in nature and in sayings and teachings since the beginning of time that passive aggressiveness works. So I'm going to try to run through this. I don't want the show to be too long, but I do want you to have a pretty good idea here that this whole idea of passive aggressiveness as only being a dysfunctional behavior is not true. And you should consider the thought that there's a reason why people should be passive aggressive. So here are some examples. When I was a young person, I listened to this song a lot because I was a person that wanted to go up the ladder. And I noticed that there were certain problems when you start excelling. People don't always like that. And so my favorite band is The Who. Here's a song from them. I'm going to just read a few lines. Get a job and fight to keep it. Again, that's aggressive. Strike out to reach a mountain. Again, trying to go for that goal. That's aggressive. Be so nice on the outside, but inside, keep ambition. You don't have to tell everybody that you want to beat them. You don't have to tell everybody that you want to be the smartest one in class. You don't have to go to the gym and tell them that you want to be the biggest and strongest. Just do it. Be humble. Go underneath the radar. You don't want to be a target, unless you're that great and it doesn't matter. Continuing. There's a millionaire above you and you're under his suspicion. Now, think about this. The millionaire above you is somebody in corporate who their job is to make more money for the corporation, and they can do that in a few ways. They can cut your salary, they can not pay you or give you a raise, they can look to replace you. And sometimes if you're doing well, people don't like that either. You would assume that if you're a good person, that if you're doing well at your job, that people will always think that that's a good thing. But you have to do certain things in moderation. I'm going to give you an example of that. I have been fired from every personal training job I ever had until I opened up my own personal training business, again, about 35 years ago. I'll give you an example. In the late 80s, personal training was just starting to become a thing. I was not a great bodybuilder. I was a good bodybuilder. But the guy who owned the gym was a great bodybuilder, but he wasn't much on the personality side. So he said that I could do some personal training in the gym if I could get clients, and he just kind of thought I would never get any clients because I wasn't as big as him. Okay, fair enough. So what happened was, in a very short amount of time, about a month, people were coming in to see me all the time. I had about 6 steady clients, and they were coming in 2 to 3 times a week. And I made a nice little tiny business for myself. Unfortunately, it was in his business. He was like, well, I'm going to do that too. And he really didn't get any clients. He got one client here or there, but they didn't stay with him because he was all about him, and he really didn't have this caring about other people. And so to make a long story short, he came in one day and he fired me. He fired me because even though I was bringing people into his gym, his ego couldn't handle it that people came in and had more respect from me about my knowledge about bodybuilding than his. And this became a common theme for me for a few years. And again, so I'll tell you, there's a millionaire above you and you're under his suspicion. Is this always true? No, of course not. But is it true sometimes, and you need to be able to discern what you should do and what you should not do? So again, passive aggressiveness is not, it's a survival skill that you might need. Going with this, let's say you're a hairdresser, let's use that example again. And your dream is to open up your own salon, and you have your own clientele. And what you're going to do is you're going to open up a salon. You're going to bring your clientele, and hopefully you have a bunch of friends, and maybe you can pull some other hairdressers from around town or the place you're at. Here's the first thing you should do. Well, not the first thing, but it's something. Don't tell your boss. What, are you kidding me? You're going to tell you, but hey, just so you know, I'm going to open up another salon about 2 or 3 miles down the road. I just want you to know. Do you think you're going to have a job? First of all, they're going to throw you out. Your salon that you're building is not going to be finished. And then you may never open it because the money that you're using, that you're working with at this one particular place, you're going to lose that, and then you're not going to fund the new place. So why would you tell your boss that you're going to open up a place down the street? You should never do that. Again, you want an indirect confrontation. You don't want to confront people who are much more powerful than you directly. It makes no sense. So it's better to be passive aggressive here. Moving on, again, I don't want this show to be too long, but I'm going to have a lot of things to say here. Of course, I can't get my phone to work that fast. Here's something that everybody knows. My mother told me this about 100 times, or more than that in my life, but it makes sense and it works. Great saying. You can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. You can win people to your side more easily by gentle persuasion and flattery than by hostile confrontation. Again, is that passive aggressive? Absolutely. Does it work though? Yes. So let's just get out of this angry, confrontational, individualistic world and start thinking that you don't need a hammer for every job. Sometimes you need a feather. And moving on, I've got more. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. One of the greatest books ever written, and is one of the most respected pieces of literature here that Sun Tzu wrote. I'm going to go down this really quick because obviously it's a big book and he's got a lot to say. But when it has to do with passive aggression, let's just hit that. So, number one, he said all warfare is based on deception. All warfare. Can we be honest here and say that it's not just about the military warfare? We're not talking about Russia and Ukraine, okay? Although we could. But let's talk about the warfare in your own life. If you want to go out on a date with a particular person and you're at a club, it's warfare. There's a lot of people that are going to find the person that you find attractive. You're going to have to compete against them. That's the way it is. You want to get a good job, you're going to have to compete against them. This world is nothing but competition. If you say that it's not, you're not living in reality. So again, all warfare is based on deception. Continuing, hence, when able to attack, we must seem that we're unable to attack. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe that we are far away. When we are far away, we must make them believe that we are near. Hold out baits to entice the enemy, feign disorder, and crush them. If he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is superior in strength, then evade him. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, and so that he may grow arrogant. Let's skip through a few here. Your opponent is unprepared because you have deceived him. He does not expect you because you have irritated him, made him arrogant, and denied him the rest required for him to regain his senses and reconsider his vulnerable position. These military devices leading to victory must not be divulged beforehand. So, in summary, do not tip your hand. Again, is this passive aggressive? From Sun Tzu, one of the greatest books ever written? Yes, that's what it is. It's passive aggression. Let's look at a few more. I'll try to do this pretty quick. I don't want to do this in 2 shows. I don't know how many people are interested in this type of stuff. Here's something that is biblical, but it's also in The Godfather, if you want that. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. What does that mean? Of course it's passive. You can't keep enemies close. How are you going to do that? You're going to look them in the eye. You're going to be cordial to them. But you want to keep them close and you want to know who they are and what they're capable of, because you want to know if they can hurt you and when they're going to do it. Is that passive? Yes. Is it aggressive? Yeah, it's that too, because in the end, you're going to want to win or you don't want to be hurt. So yes. And if somebody's out there saying, well, humbleness doesn't have anything to do with aggressiveness, that there is no such thing as a passive part of it, you would be wrong. Because again, this whole world is based upon moving forward and doing better. And if it's not for you, you're going to be the one who's homeless, right? You're going to be the one who can't find food. So you have to understand that it's all about competition. And again, if you want to take a full run at somebody, you can do that, but you're going to get killed. You have to do things in a smart, intelligent, nuanced way. Continuing. Again, my parents told me this all the time. I think this came from probably Roosevelt, I'm not sure. But walk softly and carry a big stick. Again, why would you want to tell everybody, well, yeah, I'm a tough guy, I'm strong, I'm doing this, I'm coming after you. You don't need to do that. Have what you have, move forward, but do it in a stealth type of way. Walk softly. Again, but have enough power to follow it through. Never expose your next step. Just take the step. A fish with a closed mouth never gets caught. Think about that. And also that goes along with that. Here's another saying from way back when. Loose lips sink ships. Again, don't tell your enemies where you're going and where you're going to be and what your motive is. Loose lips, don't talk. That's what they say, sink ships. Yeah, because you're going to get attacked and you will lose, especially if you're good, because people will see you as a threat. Continuing. Don't confuse kindness with weakness. You can be extremely kind, but be very powerful. Here's one. No bulletin board material. Most people in combat sports know this, especially I remember growing up, especially in football. Lou Holtz was famous for this. Lou Holtz was the coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They had a great team back then. Let's say that they have 10 wins, 0 losses. They're going to play a team that has no wins and 10 losses. So the chance of Notre Dame losing that game were like slim. But when asked, Lou Holtz would say, we're going up against a great college, a great organization. They have great people, great administrators, and they have a history of athletics and academics at that school. I completely respect them and everything that they do and everything that they've ever done. That's what he would say. And they would say, we're going to be in for it this Saturday. I know they're going to bring us their best, and this is going to be a tough game. That's what you say. You give out respect. Is that passive? Yes. Because aggressiveness would be, we're 10-0, that team sucks, we're going to hammer them to death, and we're going to embarrass them in front of their home crowd. You don't say that. Why? Because even though athletes still want to do their best, if you make it personal like that, some of those guys are going to get out of control, and in the game, somebody's going to get a concussion, and you're going to have losses on an individual basis that you should not have to take. You're going to get cheap shotted and everything else, and it's going to cost you way more than what it should. So be respectful. Continuing. In relationships, again, everybody's so confrontational now, and everybody has to be right. Think about this. If you're in a relationship, do you need to be right all the time? Do you need to be aggressive? If your partner says something and you disagree or have a slightly different point of view, do you need to say that you're smarter or better or your way of doing it is better? Or can you just listen and just sit back and listen to your partner talk and be themselves? So I would say, do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship? Because being more passive in a relationship, you allow your partner to be who they want to be. If you want to be more aggressive, sure, you can attack them and be confrontational and then say, here's my boundary, don't ever talk about this. You can do that, but you're not going to have a good relationship, though. Moving on. If you're a person who really needs a job and you do have some friends and they have the same skill set as you, why would you tell them you're going for a job interview and where it is? Why would you do that? What you're doing is you're increasing the amount of competition you're going to have for that job, and the chances of you getting that job are going to go down a lot. And who's to blame for that? You. So you do that. As a bodybuilder, I could tell you most bodybuilders that I know, including myself, when we start to train for a show, we don't tell everybody. We just do it. One of the reasons is because it's our own personal journey. That's true. But part of it is that I'm not going to rile up some guy that has it out for me in a personal way. They say, oh, Joe's going to be doing this show. Man, I hate that guy. I'm going to take him down. Like, I don't need that extra. And nobody does, really. So at that level, which you would probably just train for a show and do it. I'll give you an example. Probably the best example as I can give. In 1980, Arnold Schwarzenegger competed in the Mr. Olympia, which is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. He had won the Olympia many times before, but he had taken off for 5 years. He showed up at the 1980 Olympia, unannounced, and he won. Nobody knew he was going to be in it. Here's the thing. He didn't deserve to win that show, and most people would tell you he didn't. But he had some things in his back pocket to win that show. Number one, he was famous, and he had a lot of clout, and he knew all the judges. If he would have told people, hey, I'm getting in shape to do Conan the Barbarian, I might as well drop in to do this show, every one of those competitors would have complained to say, hey, number one, you're friends with all the judges. We want different judges. What would have happened? He would have lost that show fair and square the way he should have. But he snuck in on that one and he won that. Again, even at that level, even as good as or great as he is, he still did that. He did not hit that up directly. Continuing. I think that's about all I have, except for this one more. And this one is biblical. So if you don't like church or that type of stuff, then you can cut out, although it's been 27 minutes already. I really like this one. And it says, nothing is so strong as gentleness, but nothing so gentle as real strength. And I love that because it is strong to be passive in a sense, because you are moving forward without being a jerk to people, without being loud and boisterous and brash and upfront and direct and confrontational. You don't have to do that to be successful. A lot of the successful people in the world are doing it in a very humble, passive way. As a matter of fact, you can look through session musicians like that, and you can say, oh, this is such a great guitar, whatever it is, on a song, and know that the person who actually played that didn't get any credit for it on the album. And those types of people continue to play for years and years and years and years on different songs and different styles of music because they stay in the background. So is that passive? Yes. Sometimes they don't even put their name to be credited on somebody else's song, but they're the one doing it. There's a lot of people like that. I can give you examples, but I don't think this is the right show for that. Anyway, if you have stayed this long, thank you for doing that. Hopefully this has opened up your eyes. And if you need to be passive in a certain sense and move forward through life, then by all means, you do it. Don't be told by people that are that much more powerful than you that you need to confront them straight up. I'll give you another example. Lions. Lions are probably the ultimate predators, right? They're the ultimate in terms of pride and power. Think about it. Are they aggressive or passive aggressive? We would all say that they're aggressive, probably, but you would be wrong. Why? Because number one, they stalk their prey. They try not to be seen. They sneak up on their prey. Why? They're not going to go out in the middle of the grasslands and start roaring and saying, hey, buffalo over there, I'm going to chase you now. They don't do that. They sneak up and they get their prey. Now, how do they do it? If they're facing up a 1,200-pound Cape buffalo, what do you think they do? They say, oh, it's all about my ego, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to face up and run right into the horns. They don't do that. They go after the back of the animal because it's not a direct confrontation. They go after the back because they can't get as hurt that way. So they take the easy way. They're not trying to be confrontational to prove something. There's nothing to prove. They're just trying to live. And that's the thing with our society. People are trying to tell you things. Get to the basics. You're trying to live. So stop going by what other people say. What else do lions do? Well, do you think that they pick the biggest and strongest to try out how strong they are because they're trying to prove their strength? They don't do that. They go after the weakest one in the bunch. Why? Because they're trying to get out of it alive. They're trying to survive. They don't want to get hurt. So yes, going after prey is aggressive,